Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at racial and job classes and their mythological backgrounds as requested by Lusty Zombie in the Discord server. Characters in Overlord can have two types of classes, racial and job classes. Job classes relate more to your fighting style and occupation, such as knight, priest, and sorcerer. Racial classes, however, affect your race and can branch off in a variety of ways. For example, Skeleton Mage branches into Elder Lich, which then branches into Red and Black counterfeits, as well as Night Lich and Demi Lich. After reaching a certain threshold on one of the third branches, say Demi Lich, you could acquire the class of Overlord. This is the path that Ainz took, although the Demi Lich levels are only confirmed in the web novel. These racial classes don't include your base race either, so Gagarin of Blue Roses doesn't have a human racial class. But as Evileye was transformed into a vampire after originally being human, she has a racial class of true vampire. It works slightly different in Yggdrasil, but even so, Aura and Mare don't have racial levels and only job levels, as Dark Elf is their innate race so they don't need racial levels to become a Dark Elf. Let's start by looking at some of the racial classes of the Floor Guardians. Starting with Victim, their racial class consists of 10 levels in both Angel and Archangel, with 9 more in unknown races. The term Angel comes from the Greek and Hebrew word for messenger, although in Victim's case, the class more refers to the pure-hearted nature that comes with his willingness to die for the betterment of Nazarick. This sentiment is also shared in his job classes such as Martyr and Saint. As for the class Archangel, this refers to the second lowest rank of Angel, with Arch being the Greek prefix for chief. Archangels come 8th overall in the angelic hierarchy, with Seraphim being the highest, and this is why Archangel's class has 10 levels instead of 5 like rare classes. Speaking of divine beings, there was also a group of world enemy bosses called the 10 Archangels of Sephira, which refers to the 10 spiritual aspects of the Tree of Life from Kabbalah. These aspects individually are referred to as Sephira, just like the world bosses, or Seraphot when referring to plural. Moving on to Cocytus' racial class of Insect Fighter and Vermin Lord, they are rather self-explanatory in where their names came from. But one job class that stands out is Knight of Niflheim. Niflheim or Niflheimer in Old Norse means the world of mist and refers to a cold, misty world of the dead that is ruled by the goddess Hel. Hel is unsurprisingly the goddess of death, but is also one of the children of the trickster god Loki. Niflheim was divided into 9 sections, one being the Shura corpses, better known as Nastrond, and another being a castle filled with the venom of serpents. This is where murderers, adulterers and perjurers would suffer in torment while their blood was sucked by the dragon Nidhogg. Those who fell in battle would go to the domain of Odin in Valhalla and evade Niflheim entirely. Niflheim's location was below one of the roots of the world tree Yggdrasil, while being north of the eternal void Gununga Gap in which the world was created. This is the same Gununga Gap after which Albedo's world-class item was named. Being a world of misty cold and effectively an icy hell, it is fitting that Cocytus' domain of the 5th floor is similar to how Niflheim is described, also being a barren tundra with extremely low temperatures and poor visibility. Moving on to something warmer, we have Demiurge's classes. His racial classes are Imp and Archdevil, with 20 levels in classes that are unknown. This time Archdevil is a rare job class with 5 total levels, as opposed to Archangel which was only a high class. Demiurge does also have 10 job classes in Prince of Darkness, which is a term originally referring to Satan. The term originates from a 17th century poem by John Milton. The term can also be tied back as far as the 4th century, with the English translation of the Latin phrase Princeps Tenebrarum being Prince of Darkness. Given Demiurge's role as a commander, buffer and summoner of demons, and even his own name being the equivalent of Satan's in many cultures, this role is particularly befitting of him. The idea of Demiurge being Satan's equivalent comes up most frequently in Gnosticism, as does his alternative name of Yaldabaoth. In Gnosticism, God is simply known as the One or Infinite Consciousness, and is a space in which all possibility exists. Within all possibility existed a corrupting force known as the Head Archon, which created a simulated knockoff reality with limited possibilities, in which he trapped souls and fed off their suffering. The term Archon meaning ruler is the equivalent of demons or jinn in more modern religions, and the Head Archon is Yaldabaoth, whose name means child of chaos. In Gnosticism, Yaldabaoth is commonly also referred to as the Demiurge. Moving on to Shalltear, her racial classes are Vampire and True Vampire, with the latter having even more speed and being able to summon lesser vampires. The origins of vampires are pretty well known, but regardless, the name Count Dracula is said to have taken his name from Vlad Dracul, more commonly known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad was born in Transylvania and ruled over Wallachia, both in Romania. Vlad the Impaler got his nickname as his favourite way of killing his victims was by impaling them with a wooden stake, and was said to have eaten among his victims, even dipping his bread in their blood. It's not hard to see how these were adapted by Bram Stoker to have Dracula's weaknesses be a stake through the heart and his food source be blood. Aside from this, Shalltear also has a rare job class called Valkyrie Lance, explaining why episode 12 was called the Bloody Valkyrie, but also implying there are different Valkyrie classes based on the class owner's weapon of choice. In Norse mythology, the term Valkyrie or Valkyria refers to females who would guide the souls of the dead to Odin's hall in Valhalla. Once there, the deceased warriors become Einherja, meaning once fighters, and this is the same name as Shalltear's trump card. Other translations of Einherja mean army of one or those who fight alone, and spend the rest of their days drinking mead provided by the Valkyries and preparing for Ragnarok. Come Ragnarok, they'll have to fight an immense battle. Ragnarok itself refers to a series of events leading to the death of numerous great figures, including the gods Odin, Thor and Loki, after which the world would rise again cleansed and fertile. From here the surviving gods will meet and 2 human survivors will repopulate the world. Moving on to the leader of the Floor Guardians, Albedo has the racial classes of Imp and Succubus, with an extra 20 levels in unknown races. A succubus is a demon, and there are a range of beliefs as to the exact nature of their actions. Some believe that succubae drain the sexual energy of the target, while others believe that they drain the soul itself. Other interpretations still believe that they simply require male semen to survive, and that repeated sexual activity between a man and the same succubus will result in a bond being formed where the succubus cannot drain and harm the man with which the bond has been formed. Despite modern beliefs, originally succubae were believed to be hideous and deformed, with gargoyle-like appearances and even had claws and talons. In non-Western cultures, succubae are believed to be invisible to the naked eye, requiring one to have second sight to see them. Alternatively, an animal with hypersensitive vision such as cats would be able to see them, as cats are believed to be able to see ghosts even now. In such cultures, the succubus would drain your energy while you were asleep or commit sexual acts in your dreams, leaving you fatigued as soon as you awoke. And finally, we have the most famous racial class in the series, and the one that the series is named after, and that is Ainz's ultimate class of Overlord. Although Ainz describes Overlord as the highest class of undead, it does have 3 further branches, those being Overlord Wiseman, Overlord Chrono, and Overlord General. The class of Overlord comes with a range of traits on top of the standard undead traits. Some of these include his 5 tiers of Despair Aura. At the lowest tier, it has a chance to cause fear. Fear itself will inflict a penalty to all actions to the one afflicted with it, and armor does nothing to protect against its effects, although it can still be resisted by abilities, equipment, and level difference. Normally, Despair Aura wouldn't affect level 100 NPCs, even at higher tiers, but as the staff of Ainz will go and boost Lord Ainz's abilities, this strengthens the effect of the Despair Auras too, allowing them to affect level 100 NPCs as well. Despair Aura level 2 has a chance to cause panic instead of fear. Panic is a more severe version of fear as it has additional effects. Those afflicted with panic will flee the caster at all costs and will therefore not attempt to fight the Overlord. This pattern of the effect getting worse continues with tiers 3 and 4, as they have a chance to cause confusion and insanity respectively. While confusion can be healed if the target has recovery measures prepared, insanity is a permanent version of confusion that requires magic from a third party to heal it. Despair Aura 5 is even stronger though, with the chance to cause instant death to anyone in the area. Although this is the strongest, it couldn't be used as flexibly if the user is with allies without instant death resistances. The effects of Tier 1 wouldn't be too dissimilar to the result of Ainz sending out the High Race to capture the city from the Batfolk during the Holy Kingdom arc, as they also cause fear. As for Tier 5, that would be more akin to when Ainz sent the Soul Eaters out during the siege and the demi-humans started collapsing simply from being in their radius. Other abilities Ainz has as the result of the Overlord class include high tier magic and high tier physical immunity 3, acid, electricity and ice immunity, ability damage 4, status damage 4, arcane vision and see invisibility. Additionally, he has negative protection, speak evil tongues, slashing and piercing damage resistance 4, black halo, dark soul, unholy protection, and undead blessing to sense other undead beings. There is also turn resistance 3 to protect Ainz from undead control and domination effects. Ainz also has create low, middle, and high tier undead, of which he can create up to 20, 12, and 4 undead a day of their respective spell tier. Create middle tier undead allows him to turn a corpse into a permanent Death Knight or Soul Eater that remains until killed. Create high tier undead normally creates level 70 undead, but if he goes from 4 uses a day to 2, then he can create 2 level 90s instead of 4 level 70s. High level undead that can be created with this skill are Eyeball Corpses and the Thief type Eternal Deaths. And finally, one of Ainz's ultimate skills also comes from his Overlord race. Dark Wisdom allows him to gain any spells he doesn't already possess of any player he kills. It is this skill that allowed Ainz to breach the 300 spell cap and amass a collection of 718 spells from his days as a prolific player killer in Yggdrasil. And that wraps up pretty much everything. If you enjoyed, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated, as it really helps out the channel. Our Discord server is linked in the description, so please feel free to join that. And thank you once again to Q Mystic for the incredible thumbnails, whose channel is also linked in the description. With all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.